All right, first guest of the new week. Marie Sanderson joins us, former policy director with the Republican Governors Association, GOP strategist. Marie, good morning. Hope you had a great weekend.
Good morning, Richard. I did. Thank you.
And now we get back into the grind, into the race on Monday morning. A little bit shorter week though, with Good Friday coming up and an Easter weekend. I feel like, as we have discussed a number of times, this administration, the Trump administration, is operating at a dizzying pace, right? It's really hard to kind of keep up with, what's happening here and what's happening with Doge and what's happening at the White House and what's happening at the Capitol. Does it feel to you like now, about 3 months into this administration, that they have gotten into a rhythm and that there's a little bit more of a flow to what they're doing, or is this thing still just like a blitzkrieg?
It still feels like a blitz. I think if you were to ask anyone on Capitol Hill, they would feel the same way. But as I've said before, Richard, this is intentional. They have a lot they want to accomplish. They have had a lot of time to think about how they were going to do it. And the president likes chaos. It's part of how he makes deals. There's always something going on. So you have to keep your eye on the ball for the policy that matters to you, because while you're focused on one thing, they might be executing policy on something else. And that's, a really smart way when you have the White House to go on offense, and he and his team are doing that.
Is there any previous administration that has operated in anything comparable to this? I mean, I think about 94 and the contract with America, when the legislature moved very, very quickly to kind of fulfill the promise of the first 100 days. But that's the only thing that I can think of that's even close.
I would agree with you. I'll date myself. I've worked under 4 or 5 presidents in my career, and I have never seen an agenda move this quickly. The other thing the president does, which makes it feel more chaotic, is he has a lot of advisors with differing opinions around him. That's how he makes decisions. He likes people who have strong opinions. He likes to hear the case made, and then he ultimately makes a decision. And so sometimes it can feel more chaotic because there are lots of verticals, I like to say, of opinions surrounding him on important matters like trade.
Yeah, I was fascinated by the most recent cabinet meeting that they maybe I've been head in the sand. I don't ever remember where we've got video of every cabinet meeting that happens, and we've got access to that. But it feels like, I don't know that kumbaya is the right way to describe it, but everybody continues to be working in sync. And I know we've talked about Susie Wiles a bunch in the past. I thought some of her comments in particular about the way the cabinet has taken what they've been assigned and executed it so far has really been impressive.
It has been impressive. And, we've talked about this before, but just to reiterate, those who received roles in his cabinet were change agents. They got the assignment, and now they're acting on the assignment that was given to them across the cabinet. And so you're also seeing communication tools being used. You can go look at any cabinet official, and a Caroline Leavitt style press avail is there, either from the press officials themselves or the cabinet secretaries directly. And so they're doing things, and then they're communicating what they're doing to the American people in a way that people understand, right? It's not gobbledygook policy speak. It's, this is what we did for you this week. And they do that, every Friday.
There are people, Marie, that have looked at this tariff conversation and said the future of, I don't want to say the future of the presidency hangs in the balance of how it plays out, but midterm elections very well may. Uncertainty in the markets. You deal in strategy, which means you're looking at the potential outcomes, you're weighing the risk, and then you're advising based on that. This tariff situation and the global trade climate, is this a calculated risk? Is it this is what we're doing, results be damned? What is the strategy behind tariffs and this entire global trade landscape?
Well, I'll do my best because only the president knows his ultimate strategy. But what I will tell you is the president believes that we have a trade deficit with countries across the world, and it's time to balance that out. That's important not only for our economic security, but for our national security. And some of the advisors around him are the ones who are advising him on this tariff strategy, which, as Caroline Levitt noted midweek, as well as his advisor Stephen Miller, this is to bring people to the table. Have you ever read his book, Art of a Deal? The Art of Deal Making. He is implementing in his public service life what he did in the private sector. And so you do see people who are questioning what he's doing, but he is bringing countries to the table. We know that delegations of countries are going in to negotiate better deals, but longer term, China remains kind of the big elephant in the room that everyone's worried about whether or not we'll solve for. On your earlier segment, you were talking about some of the exemptions that were announced on Friday, and then on Sunday it was, well, these aren't really exemptions. There are other types of tariffs coming to semiconductors and other types of technology. Everyone's going to have to pay their fair share. And so, I do think he's trying to find a way, as you again noted on your earlier segment, how to onshore American manufacturing, and what that looks like remains to be seen.
All right, so let me push you a little farther down that road. What does that look like? I mean, is an automation piece for the United States? Is it this long-term play of redoubling on the education system so that we're producing more engineers here? How do you pay those people? What if you're just imagining this? What does it look like? Not so much in the president's mind, but if you're advising or you're looking at how this plays out, what does it look like to you?
Well, in my mind, and again, this is just my opinion, there are lots of things at play. There's unions, right? How do we handle, it's not so much a problem in Mississippi because we're a right to work state, but you have unions that a lot of our companies must deal with. You have energy supply in the Southeast. We have a lot of cheap, reliable energy. That's not the case across the country. It's the labor pool. Who wants these jobs? Are they going to do these jobs? I certainly think AI is at play. And technology. And if, I work with a lot of CEOs at some companies that are national companies that are just trying to figure out how to save their product. And so I think the certainty is really key for these guys. And so I think if they knew what the rules would be long term, I think that's what they're waiting on. While some of them don't like tariffs, if they know what the long term play is going to be, they can build it into their forecasting and decide where they're going to build, whether it's a washing machine or a telephone or whatever the widget may be. They'll figure out how to handle it and how to price it accordingly. But right now, I think while the president's negotiating with countries, that long-term forecasting is hard because they're unable to budget. And so I think if I have a comment to you, is I don't know what that looks like. I think we have lots of policies, workforce, energy infrastructure, technology that plays into that. But for the private sector, if they had certainty, then they could live within the rules that we have in the United States.
Yeah, we were talking before you came on about iPhones in particular, and what it would cost to manufacture that in the United States. And I don't know that anybody really knows that, but I'm wondering if the manufacturing example for you actually can build it in the United States and build a successful company is a guy that's front and center right now in Elon Musk, because Tesla builds everything in the United States. He's focused on that. And I mean, if you look at the sticker price on vehicles, I mean, yes, Teslas are expensive, but they're not really that much more expensive than Fords or GMCs or Toyotas or anything else.
Well, I don't own a Tesla. My son wishes that we did own a Tesla. But yeah, I mean, I think, Elon Musk has shown how to build an American company. I mean, I am certain he's in the president's ear about certain things. We've shown the president being willing to agree with Elon on things and go against him on certain things. But yeah, I think that's a great example of a company. And there are lots of examples of companies that are onshoring jobs and doing what they need to do to meet the president's goal of America first. And that is not only to national security, but bringing more jobs back to the United States. He's been very clear that that's part of his agenda. And a lot of CEOs are doing that with their companies.
Visiting with Maurice Sanderson. You got time to hang for just a few more minutes?
Yeah, certainly.
If you need to run off to a meeting, you can tell me. I won't get mad at you. I probably should have asked that.
No, I'm good. I'm good. if you didn't hear the dogs barking as my husband took the kids to school, I'm all good. So
I did not, but I can relate to that. I've almost become immune to it. It's like every time I walk in the house, it's as if our dogs have seen me for the first time ever. I'm like, hey, it's me. I live here, you know?
yes,
So we'll continue
I know.
Yeah. I'm glad that you can relate on that. Maria Sanderson, GOP strategist, former policy director with the Republican Governors Association. We'll talk a little bit about the Supreme Court when we come back. And also a question about Mississippi with a special session. Her focus is on federal, but we'll look at some state stuff as well. That's when we come back with you. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk, Mississippi. Thank you for being with us. This is Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk, Mississippi. Oh, sorry. Refreshing the video feed, Lance. It locked up over there.
Yeah,
there we go.
You were thinking hard, it looked like.
Yeah, that's probably a bad idea. Maria, I got to ask you about this. I'm just going to be honest. I kind of checked out for about 3 days last week. Golf stuff, got to go to the Masters. And so I feel like I missed the uproar about real ID. And part of the reason I missed this is because, like, 4 or 5 years ago, TSA told us everybody had to have real ID or you won't be able to fly. So I went and renewed my driver's license forever ago, and then they changed it. People get in such an uproar about identification. What is the debate here, and why are people so upset about it?
Well, I'm laughing because you're right. This has been around forever. I remember working on this issue as a 22-year-old who used to work for Senator Thad Cochran, and then when I worked for the Governor Barber, we were working on this issue, and Congress has delayed it and delayed it and delayed it. And many years ago, they set the deadline to 2025, and everybody had to have their ID. And I give a ton of credit to our state.
Yes.
I'm sure I know people are up in arms about it, but Governor Reeves, Governor Bryant, Governor Barber, Commissioner Tyndall, like others, have been saying this, get your ID. When you go get a new ID, it was Real ID certified. Now, the policy reason for that, it was because pre-Real ID, every state had a different version of their license. There was very little, it's certainty that the license was real and didn't have like a hologram on it. And there are lots of other national security reasons why we've done this as a country. But I know people don't like government regulations and government telling them what to do. But my saying back would be, it's an ID. You vote with your ID. It helps you. You get on an airplane with your ID. Go get a new ID. Just go get it done. We've been talking about this for years. So that's kind of my personal reaction.
If you have renewed your driver's license in Mississippi in the last 5 years, you most likely already have a real ID. Look for the gold star, little circle star in the upper right-hand corner of your license. If you got that, you're good. You don't have that, supposedly you won't be able to fly without it unless you have a passport starting on May 7th, 2025. So you got about a little less than a month to get that done.
Yeah.
I mentioned Supreme Court. There are a gazillion, very scientific number, appeals right now before the Supreme Court. Way more than the number of cases that they normally hear in a year. The reason that we've got that is because we have these district judges that are making sweeping rulings that are outside of their jurisdiction. The House passed a law last week that would kind of keep them in their place a little bit more. How is the Supreme Court going to handle this docket? Because a lot of these decisions need to be heard and ruled on pretty quickly.
Well, I don't. I like to tell people I just pretend to be a lawyer. I'm not a lawyer. But look. You're right. The Supreme Court has a lot in front of them, and I think people are going to be sitting and waiting for those Fridays when they announce what they're going to actually consider. And there's a lot on the docket, as you noticed, or as you noted, because of what the president's doing, and just the litigious nature of our country and appeals and all sorts of things. So I'm not answering your question because I don't know. I'm glad I'm not Supreme Court justice here, but that it will be a busy fall when they start to announce some of their decisions on some of these important cases.
All right, last thing for you. The Mississippi legislature has a special session coming. We don't know when, and we don't know what exactly. We know that the budget has to be in there because they didn't pass a budget before they adjourned. I know your focus primarily is at the federal level, but you've worked with the Governors Association. Do you anticipate more than just the budget on the agenda that Tate Reeves hands out for this special session coming up in Mississippi? I'm asking you to make a prediction.
Gosh, that's a tough one. I've seen it both ways, having worked for governors where you call everybody back and you control the agenda and it's very focused and they can write, these orders in such a way that the legislature has to be really focused on what the governor wants them to do. So I could see a scenario where they just focus on the budget because that needs to be done very soon, obviously, to plan for the fiscal year. But look, if the governor has other priorities, there's no better time than a special session to try and push that through. Governor Reeves has a few more years. He's likes to be a change agent. And so I could see him doing another special session. Governor Barber one time did a special session within the special session, if you can believe that. I can't
Easy
quite
to
remember
say.
what the issues were that we were doing. But yeah, I mean, there are a number of formulas for Governor Reeves if he wants to push a special session forward on an issue.
Marie Sanderson, GOP strategist, former policy director with the Republican Governors Association. Always appreciate the time. Good visiting with you. We'll talk soon.
Thank you, Richard. Have a great week.
You as well. Mornings with Richard Cross. 8 o'clock hour coming up next.